Popular show hosted by Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, which has millions of listeners each week. They are well known for their laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, cryptozoology, folklore, and anything else that would be deemed outside the realm of normal. Michelle is an international public figure who has spent the last 2 decades working in the international paranormal community, in research and media. Amelia is a remote viewing medium with 10 years of working with missing children, as well as cold and active murder cases. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Outer Realm in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. That's podcastawards.com. It's super easy. So just please take a moment and get out and go vote. All right, everybody, it is that time of year again. It's time for you to get out and nominate for your favorite podcast. The show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards is The Centralist in the category of politics and news. The Centralist is a much different news and political program which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen. Time to get out and vote. All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. The show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards is Chasing Prophecy in the category of Society and Culture. Take a ride down the rabbit hole with Jenny Nicasio, Shawn Kelly, and Jason Iampietro, where each episode brings a roundtable approach to conversations about supernatural phenomena, hidden secret societies, underground bunkers, magical conspiracies, the paranormal, cryptic creatures, aliens, ghosts, legends, and myths from around the world. Chasing Prophecy radio program dives into topics that entice the imagination and seduce the mind, some of which are taboo. Chasing Prophecy, where they discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate Chasing Prophecy in the category of Society and Cultures. That's podcastawards.com. Take a moment and get out and vote.
Prepare yourselves for an evening filled with paranormal, special guests, interviews, haunting stories, creatures of the unknown, and tales that will chill you to the bone. Brought to you by the UPRN Network and Pittsburgh Paranormal Society. Take a walk into the night with Shawn Kelly.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to my show, Into the Night. I'm Shawn Kelly. And, of course, we have a thing on Chasing Prophecies called Torture Tuesdays, okay? Is where all the electronical gremlins decide to come out and mess with our computers. So, sorry about the intro. Hopefully we can get these little gremlins out of, our computers and go from there. I have a good show tonight. I brought my dear friend on, who's with another paranormal group, and it's Drake Bowen. How are you, Drake?
Hey, brother. How are you doing tonight, Shawn?
All right, brother. Let me give you a little bio that you gave me here. Let me bring up the phone here. Okay, he was born and raised in Oakmont, Pennsylvania. He is the director of the Oakmont Paranormal Society, an ordained Wiccan minister, and certified demonologist.
Yep.
And you also what? You're celebrating a birthday today?
Well, not mine. Our team just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we celebrated our 12th anniversary as a team.
Awesome.
It was a real good time.
How are you doing, dude? It's about time I got you on the show. What? It took me 3 years to get your ass on here.
Yeah, you've been nagging me for a couple years now, and I finally was able to find some time.
I'm glad that you did. What's going on with you, buddy? How you doing? Now, see, what I do is I read. Hi, Jamie, Joni, Octavia. Welcome to the show. Go ahead, Drake.
Hi, everybody. Just been trying to keep busy and try to keep myself out of trouble. Like I mentioned, we just celebrated 12 years with the team. we're in the process of planning our annual fundraiser for the Carnegie Library of Homestead.
Mm-hmm.
A couple home investigations that are rather intriguing. I have one of them. I can't, of course, I can't really divulge who or where, but one of these cases has a entity of a. I'm not sure yet because we only just investigated it the other night. But the entity, one of the entities at this residence, is claiming to be a little child. It's trying to influence a friend's little daughter
Mm-hmm.
to misbehave and act out.
Oh,
So
wow.
we're just starting on that one. We have a case in it's a little closer to home that we're trying to track down a hat man that's been repeatedly seen over the past several years.
Right. Right.
So that's going to be interesting. But it's that time of the year. The team's gearing up. We've got HillCon coming up on August 13th. We're going to be putting a table out there and showing off some of our evidence and equipment.
Mm-hmm.
The 21st, we're going to be up in Tionesta at the Things That Go Bump in the Forest paranormal convention there.
Mm-hmm.
I personally will be speaking at a couple other locations, one of which includes you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's October 15th, I believe. You and I will be part of a panel discussion at the
Yeah.
Penn Hill Library.
Yep.
And then, of course, our annual fundraiser for the Carnegie Library of Homestead.
And you know what? I did that one time, and I really enjoyed myself. And ladies and gentlemen, with this fundraiser he does for the library, it's great. I mean, he brings all kinds of groups in, and there's people lined up. They buy tickets and stuff like that, and we give them mini investigations around the whole library. And Drake's been doing that for a very long time. So, Drake, what got you into the paranormal?
Long story. Pardon me. Stop it.
Is that your dog?
No, it's one of the entities in my home.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I have a man, a woman, and a little boy that haunt my trailer.
Right.
And every time I start talking about something paranormal, one of them comes up and tries to get my attention by touching me. It's like, dude. What got me kicked into it? Probably about 20 years ago. My ex-wife and I were living in Venango County. We were sharing a house with some friends. And one night, my ex-wife and I went to sleep, and my son came racing upstairs into our room saying, "Daddy, she slapped me. She slapped me." I'm going, okay. I was thinking it was my friend's wife because she was less than cordial with my wife at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting ready to go down and, throw a beat down on somebody, despite the fact that my friend is 6'4" and built like a proverbial brick house.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to cremate Jackie if that's the case. And William looked at me and said, Daddy, it wasn't Aunt Jackie. I'm going, wait a minute. What are you talking about? He says, it was the lady in purple. Here, he told me that there was we had a room with my two boys and their two boys that shared a room. And he said at about 2:00 in the morning that a cradle, an old-fashioned cradle, manifested in the middle of the room, and there was a crying baby in it.
Oh, wow.
William has always been a very caring child, even to the point where he's now a nurse.
Right.
But he got out of bed to go comfort the baby and calm it down. And he said this lady in a purple dress just manifested right on the other side of it and hauled off and slapped him. And sure enough, there was a big red handprint on the side of his face.
Wow.
And I'm going, all right, dude, you know what? Just go back to sleep. You're imagining things. Well, the next night, I was up late, and thankfully it was off work. And my ex and I lived up in the attic. We slept in the attic of the place. And I went up through the servants' stairwell from the kitchen because it was an old Victorian mansion. And I happened to look down towards where the kids slept. and there was a full-bodied apparition of a woman in a purple Victorian era dress.
Did you get a
And
name?
no, we didn't get a name. This was before I really even started into the paranormal.
Right.
I just stood there with my jaw hanging down to the ground as she walked through the wall and vanished.
Okay.
And that just started piquing my curiosity. God knows how many different haunted places I've actually lived in, especially up there in Venango County. I know my soon-to-be wife and I lived in an apartment complex that was owned by Al Capone.
Oh, really?
And it's a place. It's now a bar called Billy's,
Okay.
but it was Al Capone would actually use it as a stopover, running from Chicago down to Pittsburgh, and then he would stay overnight in Pittsburgh, move to Harrisburg, and then he would move over to New York,
Okay.
and running bootlegging his alcohol and everything else. But he would actually stay there in this building in Oil City. Lord knows we had plenty of times our bedroom door would open up. Honey, what else did we have happen there? Do you remember? She's a little tied up.
That's
She's
okay.
playing a game.
We'll get her on another show.
We can do that.
Yeah,
I know
we
she.
can do. Hey, Shan, good to see you. Good.
But and it just I started investigating back before all the TV shows did start becoming popular. Back in the day when we had to walk 5 miles uphill.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with that one. But it's just always what it boils down to is I want to know what happens and why people stay here. There's got to be reasons. Nobody just wants to stay here after they pass on. I'm sure of it.
Well, and when you say that, my friend, and in all the research that I've done and all the investigations that that I've dealt with, there's like two big major reasons why to hang around. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is they got unfinished business. Okay.
Of course.
That to me, that was like one of the big ones. And the other one was, especially if they were married. Okay. And I'll say like you and your wife to be, you guys lived married for 50 years and did everything together. You were joined at the hip and all of a sudden you die, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's going to be extremely depressed. And I can guarantee it, Drake, that you would not leave her until she knows she was okay.
Right. Yeah.
That's the biggie.
I have to agree with you. And then actually, the lecture I'm going to be giving here in 2 weeks, you and I have already discussed part of it. We just talked, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Regarding the difference between ghosts and spirits, and everything that I'm coming across, we're both correct. And whomever that was on your team that I had spoken to them many years ago, that said that there's a difference between a ghost and a spirit is absolutely right.
Right.
But you're right as well. If I were to pass on, I would definitely stick around and make sure Zoe's okay.
Right. Right.
It's kind of funny because when my mother passed on 7 years ago, I was living in Oakmont at an older Victorian mansion. I have no idea what it is with me and Victorian mansions. But my ex-girlfriend and I were standing there talking, probably 24 hours after Mom crossed over, and smack dab in between the two of us, a bunch of cake pans came up off of the rack that we had them on, floated out in front of us, and dropped down to the ground. And we're sitting there going, okay, Mom's here. She's letting us know she's okay.
Did your mother wear a special type of perfume? Did you get any scent?
I can't remember the name of it, but I never caught it. But Mom always goes out of her way to make contact with me.
Okay.
The first time she made contact with me, aside from throwing the baking pans down, about 2 months after she passed on, we were at the Ohio State Reformatory. I just got this brilliant idea to go sit in the wooden chair room by myself. And I took a ghost box, SB7 with me, and just started running it. And I came up, I don't know, whatever possessed me to do it, but I'm sitting there in the room running the ghost box, and I just started calling her out by name. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, her voice came through the ghost box, and she said, Drake. And I said, Mom, is that you?
Oh.
Get a response. Waited for about 2 more minutes. I was trying to prompt her again, and she repeated my name. And I actually put the whole session up on a video on my Facebook page. But it's kind of funny because she's what people won't hear on that recording is the last 4 words, the last 3 words that she ever said to me in life, which were simply "knock it off."
Wow.
I had seen her 2 days prior to her crossing, and she was a cancer victim. They gave her morphine, and she stopped breathing in front of me. And I'm going, "Oh hell no, Mom! You did not do that." And I'm trying to feel her neck for a pulse, and she just fluttered her eyes and said, "Drake, knock it off." So that kind of confirmed it was her. But I've seen her manifest at my late father's house. She appeared as she was in her 30s.
Really?
Yeah, I went to lay down after work. So I was extremely tired from a long day, and as I laid in what was my mom and dad's bed, I felt something in the room, and I peeked out from under the covers, and there she was standing there, and it kind of shocked me. I'm just like, "Mom, knock it off! Come on, what the hell?" She smiled and grinned at me, and then just vanished.
That's cool. Hey, listen, I got a question.
Sure.
From one of my viewers here.
Hi, viewers.
It's from Joni. Joni's her name. What is the difference between a ghost and the spirit?
Oh, I don't know if I want to answer that one because
I think you better do.
Yeah. Well, from what I've done, from the lack of, how can I start it? Johnny, please forgive me. I'm in the process of writing this whole new lecture, so it's going to be hard. It's going to be easy, but hard for me to answer. The differences I see, and having gone to several different websites, they all say that ghosts are people who have died a traumatic death, or something violent happened, like a murder, or they died in combat, and they just have not crossed over because they haven't had, according to these different sites. And it's really interesting because all these different sites mention the exact same thing, and they haven't had that tunnel of light experience where they cross over and they walk into the light and they're on the other side. And I disagree with that. I do disagree with that because I find that entities, it doesn't matter. I mean, like you had mentioned earlier, Shawn, if they have some kind of unfinished business, there's something they want to point out or let you know about, they're going to stick around. And I fully believe that they can cross back and forth. But by the same token, I want to say a spirit is more of a religious entity. And I actually break it down into about 10 different languages, listing the words ghost and spirit and comparing. And there's 3 languages that I picked at random: Hawaiian, Dutch, and German. They all have the same word for ghost and spirit, which to me says that mankind interchanges the words, like you and I discussed, Shawn. Right. Mankind will just interchange the words easily. But I was talking with another friend of mine. His name is Miguel Sagay, and he's a Taino Native American. And in their language, the word ghost is actually 2 words. It's Ya-Opia, which means deceased one. And then the second word for spirit is Sami. which means divine entity. And that to me, and to him as well, suggests that a spirit is more of a religious, like a positive, what's known as a positive light entity, or a positive light being, like an angel. So that tells me that a spirit has actually crossed over, and they come back and forth according to these websites to offer consolation to their beloved, to their girlfriends, wives, husbands, uncles, whatever have you, just to comfort them.
Well, I hope that answered your question, Joni. Joni, honest to God, it's really deep. It's really, really deep, and you can go down so many damn rabbit holes with it, John. I mean, it's just insane. But you know what? We're going to have him back on again after he does his speech, his little presentation, and we're going to talk about it some more. You all right with that, Drake?
Oh, you know I am, Shawn.
No, damn straight you better be, brother.
Hey. Well, you know me all too well. You get me talking about the paranormal, I don't shut up.
Well, pretty soon we're going to get you off the paranormal because there are a couple of questions I want to ask you.
Sure. Fine.
What you said that you were investigating before the TV shows came on. So, how did you get your members for your paranormal group? How did you go by getting your members?
Well,
do you have specific rules for your members?
We do indeed. There's about I don't know, honey, about 10 or 15, maybe 20 different rules that we have. All and they vary too. From like you're not allowed to wear perfume or cologne on an investigation. If you make a noise, you identify it. No horse playing on an investigation. How we actually started is Zoe and I were sitting at home about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. Oh, what was it? 2010, we were sitting home. We were watching Ghost Hunters. As a matter of fact, it was the episode where the Ghost Hunters went into the Carnegie Library of Homestead. And
I was there.
And that's I know you were there. Yeah, that's correct. You were with them. Yeah. But I looked at that, we looked at each other, and she looks at me and she says, you know what? I bet you if we put a team together, we could do better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Literally, I just jumped onto Facebook and I said, okay, anybody who's interested in the paranormal, shoot me a message. I want to form a team. We started out with 10 people originally. And it's just built up over the years. I've actually had as many people as 30 that say, oh yeah, I want to be on the team, I want to investigate, and of course never ever come out. How many people you've had to do that to you?
Tons. But it's funny, especially when Ghost Hunters and all them came out, everybody wanted to be a paranormal investigator and go on the hunt. And I remember I would get, young people like in their 20s, early 20s,
right,
late 20s. And when they find out where you just sit around and don't do a darn thing and talk to something that's not there,
right,
they kind of got bored. They rather have gone to the bar. So I've gone through a lot of people too on that.
And to me, that touches on something within my team. We do not like using the term ghost hunter. While it does have some validity to it,
right?
We are paranormal investigators. To me, a ghost hunter is somebody who goes out, for example, goes up to Hillview Manor, and they're just there to get scared or maybe catch a picture and see what can happen. And they're not looking for data. And that's what sets people like yourself and myself apart. Is that I know we're going out, we're trying to not only help people wherever we can, but we're looking for information. We want to know why people stay here. We want to know what led up to their crossing over.
Right.
I've actually had EVPs and ghost box sessions where I've asked entities if they knew that they were deceased. My favorite one I want to say it was a school that we did down in West Virginia. And I said, do you realize that you're dead? And this woman just belted out no,
Oh
a
wow.
long, drawn out no over in Ghost Box.
Right.
And I, my heart pretty much cracked at that point.
Joni says she will be looking forward to when you come back on again. And she also said, you really need to know what you are doing before you investigate. Definitely.
And Joni's absolutely right. It's when I was growing up, I was that weird kid that kids were pulling out the Hardy Boy books. They were reading this book, that book, the other book. I was the one that's turning around and I was reading about UFOs, vampires, werewolves, and ghosts and everything else, and going, "This is cool." I've studied it far longer than I've actually been hunting.
Right.
But Joni is absolutely correct. You do need to know what you're doing before you go in, because we have a location you've been to with us over in Greensburg, and recently in the past 7 months we've had an entity that's once we step outside starts attacking my female team members.
Right.
And I've had to banish these things, whomever it is. You would think the fool would learn. And apparently he doesn't, because he attacked 2 of my team members again this past weekend. And it's like, okay, dude, I'm done playing games with you, so you have a choice. You either back off or I make you back off. And I started preparing to do an exorcism, even though an exorcism is going a little bit hardy. Just there were other methods that can and were used. But if needed be, I was ready to pull out my gear and just to perform an exorcism just to get rid of this guy.
Right.
Because he actually followed 2 of my team members, including one of my juniors, back to, they drove away from the location. And
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, that little jagoff decided to follow them back. And I, just make sure that they weren't, pulling my chain. I ran a K2 meter through their car after I made them shut it off, and it lit up like a Christmas tree in the back of the car.
Okay.
So I had to perform a banishment there. That was intriguing.
you do what you got to do at the, you got to do it, you got to do it. But I want to ask you one more scenario about what your group does, and then I want to get into a couple other questions with you.
Sure.
So I got a ghost in my house, and I contact you. What is your procedure?
Well, the first thing we want to do is we'll normally try to find out some kind of history on the house, if there is indeed a history. What we like to do is, and I'll admit, I don't care to do home investigations.
Right, I know that.
Yeah. You know how it is. I mean, we had one investigation here in Westmoreland County, out in Avonmore, where this lady allegedly had a demon in the house. And I took the team in, and lo and behold, there's about 30 people standing by watching, waiting for us to get there.
Right. Yes.
One of the reasons. But if it involves a child, I don't care. I'll go in.
Right.
So what we do is we get together with the family, and we'll document any of the alleged sightings. There are 4 or 5 different standard questions we ask. Interestingly, one of the fun ones that we do ask, and not to be rude or perverted, but we ask the women if they're currently in the middle of a menstrual cycle. Right. And it's kind of funny because when Dan Aykroyd and Ivan Reitman wrote the original Ghostbusters script, then they threw that in there. It turns out that Dan Aykroyd is a huge paranormal investigation fanatic, and he does his own crypto and UFO investigations as well. So he actually had Peter Venkman, Bill Murray's character, ask that question, and there's truth behind it.
Right.
So We ask if there's narcotics use, alcohol use,
Right.
And then we ask what's happening. Then, generally speaking, we, ask the family to leave one member there, so that we can keep ourselves covered in case something happens.
Exactly, man. There's a group. Remember, there was a couple groups here in Pittsburgh that would tell them, no, you got to leave and stay at a motel and we get run to your house. Hey,
Yeah.
no way, I'm going to do that. That's a bunch of bull crap, man. That's bullshit,
One of those teams from the East Hills.
I'm not going to mention anything. We're worldwide tonight.
I think you and I both know who we're talking about.
Yeah, we do. But listen, I really need to ask you this question because when you sent me your bio, I didn't know none of this. Can you please tell my listeners and the people watching the show, what is an ordained Wiccan minister?
I'm actually ordained through the Universal Life Church, but I am not a Christian. I'm not a Satanist. I'm not a Satanist. I follow the path of Wicca. Wicca has been, it's a, for lack of a better term, it's a dumbed down version, in my opinion, of the original pagan religious beliefs from the old days.
Okay.
Wicca has only been officially recognized as a religion for about 30 or 40 years. It was recognized by the U.S. government in the late 1970s as an established religion, and I am more of an what they call an eclectic Wiccan. I draw from different belief paths, from Native American medicine to the Celtic traditions to even some Egyptian. But I don't have a coven. But I went through the website and became ordained. And just basically, I minister to anybody in the pagan community that needs help.
Okay.
And that's a wide variety of different things. I have experience as a drug counselor from when I worked in the juvenile boot camp. I had to learn how to do a drug and alcohol counseling teen session. I actually had this dream of starting a pagan prison ministry, but I guess life went in a different direction.
Right.
It never took off the ground. But basically,
never say never, brother.
That's true too. That is very, very true. But if there's I have some friends that, and there are rituals that require a high priest and a high priestess. Then if something happens and they need a high priest, I can just jump right in.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very interesting. And now the second one, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, but every demonologist that I talk to, I ask this question. And when I saw that, I'm going to ask you this question.
Go for it.
Okay. First question is, where did you learn demonology? And
part of it is from my years of education with Wicca. It's Wiccans deal with a lot of different entities, a lot of different spirits. And there's a saying within Wicca that in order to know how to break a curse, you have to know how to cast it. So I'm not going to sit there and tell people that I've summoned demons, because I first off, I will tell you I've never summoned one.
Right.
I see no logic in it. But I've had some training with that there, and probably about a year and a half ago, my colleague Jay Blackburn and I were discussing it, and we found a course online that would give you like $200 or $300 worth of study in order to become a certified demonologist. And I call me crazy if I'm jumping the gun here, but the one thing is that the Catholic Church swears up and down that they own the market on demonology and exorcisms, and that's simply not the truth.
No.
You know, while it's a nice wish for them, they don't. I mean, my kid brother is a Baptist minister, and he's trained in demonology as well.
Right.
You know, so it all depends on your beliefs. Now, the exorcism rites vary, and it also, something I have found over the years is that when you're dealing with a malevolent spirit, such as a demon or say a class 3 poltergeist that is, you know, causing harm to people, it depends on the home, and it depends on the home owners or the home residents and what their beliefs are. You know, there's my methods for exorcising a demon would not exactly work in a Christian home, and vice versa.
Right.
Because it deals with the energy that is being put out inside that home. Right. You know, if I were to try, you know, that's the kind of nice thing, because as a ordained minister from the Universal Life Church, I have a book that has Christian rites in it. It has Hebrew rites in it. It has, if I recall correctly, it does have Muslim. Not that I would ever go that far, but it also has Wiccan rites in it. So I could go and use those rites, you know, and especially because I was raised Presbyterian up until I was about 17. Mm-hmm. And then we all switched over to the Assemblies of God. And I, of course, found my own path while I was in the Army. Right. And shortly after that, you know, and that being that of the Wiccan. But sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
All right. When you're on an investigation, you got something in there that's not so happy. How do you know? How do you know that how do you know it's a demon? Or it could be some spirit in there that's been there for the longest time. Mm-hmm. And the people came in and they took down their polka dotted wall, dude. And that really got that spirit mad. How can you tell the difference?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. Actually, in getting back to the Catholics, they actually have a list of about 9 or 10 different items. And it holds true no matter what form of demonology you practice. These 9 different things, you have to match up like 4 or 5 things off this list in order to consider it to be a demon. Okay. Probably about 7 years ago, even before I started studying demonology in earnest, we had a case come in when I lived in Oakmont, and this guy just says, well, my wife and I are fighting. There's been scratches in the center of my back and her back. My kids are having nightmares. My one child started talking in a different tongue. I'm smelling burning sulfur in the house. And I said, all right, stop right there. You know, at that point, there was nothing I could do. Right. And that is one case where I told the gentleman, you know what, go ahead, pack your bags, get out of there, and call the Catholic diocese.
Right.
Because I knew that I wouldn't be able to handle that at that point in time. Right. You know, and like Joni said, you know, you have to know what you're doing, especially when you come up against a demon. Now, you will get entities, a class 3 poltergeist. Class 3s are notorious for mimicking the mark of the unholy Trinity, you know, scratches on the body. But the problem is they don't do it right. A real demon will only get you in about an inch and a half, maybe 2 inch long area, right in the dead center of your back where you cannot reach.
Right.
You know, I've been scratched plenty of times, you know, working in the manner.
Yeah.
Well, but the first time I got scratched, I happened to be on an investigation. There was a fundraiser with Goose Gooseby, and Michelle Bellinger just happened to be there. Michelle was giving us our impressions of what she was picking up throughout this building, and I just felt a burning sensation on my arm, and that was the very first time I ever got scratched. It showed up bright as day. And I'm geeking out, looking at Michelle, and she's looking at me like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "Sorry, I've been investigating for a while, and I've never been scratched. This is awesome." You know,
but
I've been scratched up at Hillview Manor, and that's not the only place I've been scratched.
oh
But
no, I've been scratched, bit, punched, pushed, you name it. It happened, but I consider it comes with the territory, brother. You know what I mean? But listen, I have about another minute with you, and then I'm going to have to get going here, sir. But first of all, I want to thank you for coming on my show tonight.
It was my pleasure.
I really appreciate it. Would love to have you and Zoe back on. And you have a big thing coming up. You have a big thing coming up.
The Carnegie Library of Homestead.
No. Personal. You and Zoe, huh?
This Saturday, we're going to be up in Ford City. There's a pagan festival there. It's the Lammas or Lunasa celebration, and she and I are going to be handfasted.
Congratulations, brother. Congratulations.
For those who don't understand it, it's basically it's the pagan equivalent of a marriage.
Yes.
So she and I will be married on Saturday.
Awesome. I'm proud of you. So where could somebody, if they wanted to get a hold of you, how would they get a hold of you?
They can get in touch with us through the Facebook page. The webpage is facebook.com/OakmontGhosts, or they can just email me at drakeb.ops@gmail.com.
Oh, okay. That sounds good. And Joni said, congratulations, brother.
Thank you, Joni.
Again, thank you for being on the show, brother. And I'll probably talk to you sometime before the week is ended.
Sounds great, Shawn. And looking forward to hoping that you can make it over to the Homestead Library with us.
Yep, and we'll talk about it on the show. Okay?
Sounds great.
All right, brother. You have a good night.
Blessed be and stay spooky.
Just hit the red X button, brother.
You got it.